Book 4 The Disguise, Chapter 1 of The Black Arrow. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Black Arrow by Robert Louis Stevenson. Book 4, Chapter 1 The Den. The place where Dick had struck the line of a high road was not far from Holywood, and within 9 or 10 miles of Shoreby on the Till. And here, after making sure that they were pursued no longer, the two bodies separated. Lord Foxham's followers departed, carrying their wounded master towards the comfort and security of the great abbey; and Dick, as he saw them wind away and disappear in the thick curtain of the falling snow, was left alone with near upon a dozen outlaws, the last remainder of his troop of volunteers. Some were wounded; one and all were furious at their ill success and long exposure; and though they were now too cold and hungry to do more, they grumbled and cast sullen looks upon their leaders. Dick emptied his purse among them, leaving himself nothing, thanked them for the courage they had displayed, though he could not have found it more readily in his heart to rate them for poltroonery; and having thus somewhat softened the effect of his prolonged misfortune, dispatched them to find their way, either severally or in pairs, to Shoreby and the Goat and Bagpipes. For his own part, influenced by what he had seen on board of the Good Hope, he chose Lawless to be his companion on the walk. The snow was falling, without pause or variation, in one even, blinding cloud. The wind had been strangled, and now blew no longer, and the whole world was blotted out and sheeted down below that silent inundation. There was great danger of wandering by the way and perishing in drifts; and Lawless, keeping half a step in front of his companion, and holding his head forward like a hunting dog upon the scent, inquired his way of every tree, and studied out their path, as though he were conning a ship among dangers. About a mile into the forest, they came to a place where several ways met, under a grove of lofty and contorted oaks. Even in the narrow horizon on the falling snow, it was a spot that could not fail to be recognised, and Lawless evidently recognised it with particular delight. "Now, Master Richard," said he, "an ye are not too proud to be the guest of a man who is neither a gentleman by birth nor so much as a good Christian, I can offer you a cup of wine and a good fire to melt the marrow in your frozen bones." "Lead on, Will," answered Dick. "A cup of wine and a good fire? Nay, I would go a fair way round to see them." Lawless turned aside under the bare branches of the grove, and, walking resolutely forward for some time, came to a steepish hollow or den, that had now drifted a quarter full of snow. On the verge of a great beech tree hung precariously rooted, and here the old outlaw, pulling aside some brushy underwood, bodily disappeared into the earth. The beech had, in some violent gale, been half uprooted, and had torn up a considerable stretch of turf; and it was under this that Lawless had dug out his forest hiding place. The roots served him for rafters, the turf was his thatch; for walls and floor he had his mother the earth. Rude as it was, the hearth in one corner blackened by fire, and the presence in another of a large oaken chest, well fortified with iron, showed it at one glance to be the den of a man and not the burrow of a digging beast. Though the snow had drifted at the mouth and sifted in upon the floor of this earth cavern, yet was the air much warmer than without; and when Lawless had struck a spark, and the dry furze bushes had begun to blaze and crackle on the hearth, the place assumed, even to the eye, an air of comfort and of home. With a sigh of great contentment, Lawless spread his broad hands before the fire, and seemed to breathe the smoke. "Here, then," he said, "is this old Lawless rabbit hole. Pray Heaven there come no terrier! Far have I rolled hither and thither, and here and about, since that I was 14 years of mine age, and first ran away from mine abbey, with the sacrist's gold chain and a mass book, that I sold for 4 marks. I have been in England and France and Burgundy, and in Spain too, on a pilgrimage, for my poor soul, and upon the sea, which is no man's country. But here is my place, Master Shelton. This is my native land, this burrow in the earth. Come rain or wind, Whether it's April, and the birds all sing, and the blossoms fall about my bed, or whether it's winter, and I sit alone with my good gossip, the fire, and Robin Redbreast twitters in the woods, here is my church and market, my wife and child. It is here I come back to, and it is here, so please the saints, that I would like to die." "'Tis a warm corner, to be sure," replied Dick, "and a pleasant, and a well hid." "It had need to be," returned Lawless. "For an they found it, Master Shelton, it would break my heart. But here," he added, burrowing his stout fingers in the sandy floor, "here is my wine cellar, and ye shall have a flask of excellent strong stingo." Sure enough, but after a little digging, he produced a big leathern bottle of about a gallon, nearly 3 parts full of a very heady and sweet wine; and when they had drunk to each other comradely, and the fire had been replenished and blazed up again, the pair lay at full length, thawing and steaming, and divinely warm. "Master Shelton," observed the outlaw, "y' have had two mischances this last while, and y' are like to lose the maid. Do I take it aright?" "Aright," returned Dick, nodding his head. "Well, now," continued Lawless, "hear an old fool that hath been nigh hand everything, and seen nigh hand all. Ye go too much on other people's errands, Master Dick. Ye go on Ellis's, but he desireth rather the death of Sir Daniel. Ye go on Lord Foxham's; well, the saints preserve him! Doubtless he meaneth well; but go ye upon your own, good Dick. Come right to the maid's side. Court her, lest she forget you. Be ready, and when the chance shall come, off with her at the saddle bow." "Ay, but, Lawless, beyond doubt she is now in Sir Daniel's own mansion," answered Dick. "Thither, then, go we," replied the outlaw. Dick stared at him. "Nay, I mean it," nodded Lawless. "And if ye are of so little faith, and stumble at a word, see here." And the outlaw, taking a key from about his neck, opened the oak chest, and dipping and groping deep among its contents, produced first a friar's robe, and next a girdle of rope, and then a huge rosary of wood, heavy enough to be counted as a weapon. "Here," he said, "is for you. On with them." And then, when Dick had clothed himself in this clerical disguise, Lawless produced some colours and a pencil, and proceeded with greatest cunning to disguise his face. The eyebrows he thickened and produced; to the moustache, which was yet hardly visible, he rendered a like service; while by a few lines around his eye he changed the expression and increased the apparent age of this young monk. "Now," he resumed, "when I have done the like, we shall make as bonny a pair of friar as the eye could wish. Boldly to Sir Daniel's we shall go, and there be hospitably welcome for the love of Mother Church." "And how, dear Lawless," cried the lad, "shall I repay you?" "Tut, brother," replied the outlaw, "I do naught but for my pleasure. Mind not for me. I am one, by the mass, that mindeth for himself. When that I lack, I have a long tongue and a voice like the monastery bell. I do ask, my son, and where asking faileth, I do most usually take." The old rogue made a humorous grimace; and although Dick was displeased to lie under so great favours to so equivocal a personage, he was yet unable to restrain his mirth. With that, Lawless returned to the big chest, and was soon similarly disguised; but below his gown Dick wondered to observe him conceal a sheaf of black arrows. "Wherefore do ye that?" asked the lad. "Wherefore arrows, when you take no bow?" "Nay," replied Lawless, lightly, "'tis like there will be heads broke, not to say backs, ere you and I win sound from where we are going to; and if any fail, I would our fellowship would come by the credit on't. A black arrow, Master Dick, is the seal of our abbey; it showeth you who writ the bill." "And ye prepare so carefully," said Dick. "I have here some papers that, for mine own sake, and the interest of those that trusted me, were better left behind than found upon my body. Where shall I conceal them, Will?" "Nay," replied Lawless, "I will go forth into the wood, and whistle me 3 verses of a song. Meanwhile, do you bury them where ye please, and smooth the sand upon the place." "Never!" cried Richard. "I trust you, man. I were base indeed if I not trusted you." "Brother, y' are but a child," replied the old